today we're honored to speak with a leader who's been at the forefront of civil rights advocacy in Northern Kentucky for over 15 years, Mr. Jerome Bowles, CEO at the Bowles Center for Diversity Outreach and president of the Northern Kentucky chapter of the NAACP. From organizing community conversations to pushing for systemic reform, Mr. Bowles has been a steady voice for justice, equity, and unity. Mr. Bowles, thank you so much for joining
Glad
us.
to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, Jerome, it was great meeting you. So to start off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you, about yourself and your positions, both as the president of the Northern Kentucky NAACP and CEO of the Bowles Center for Diversity Outreach.
Okay, very good. Thanks very much. So I'm from Madisonville, Kentucky, originally in West Kentucky, and migrated to Northern Kentucky through Northern Kentucky University. Graduated from there and then attended the University of Louisville while I graduated. And I tend to stay around Northern Kentucky after that, so you wanted to use my talent and education that I acquired from both of those higher education institutions to benefit the community as much as possible. And so we got together with a team here in Northern Kentucky and reactivated the NAACP, which had been dormant for about 20 years. And I think we reactivated that in the late 2000s. And
Wow.
so they had been inactive. So when you don't have an active voice in your community for that amount of time, then you have to reintroduce yourself to the community and regain the trust of the people in the community who understand specifically what the NAACP historically contributes to. So then from there, I formed the Bowles Center for Diversity Outreach, which is an education consulting firm, which crosses over into healthcare and community building capacities. What we try to do there is work with particularly educators there to empower them to better relate and serve underrepresented populations that attend their school districts. In addition to that, we work with law enforcement. We do some law enforcement trainings on community policing and other activities to help law enforcement get ahead of any kind of issues that might develop in the communities. Then on healthcare, we always try to address health equity and make sure that healthcare people have access to healthcare no matter what their backgrounds.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like you've been involved in so many things, especially over the years. You've been leading for over 15 years. So what are some of the most transformative things that you've been able, or you've been at least seen in our community throughout
Well,
your
I think
tenure?
you have to have a commitment to the betterment of the community, and whatever that looks like, it looks different in each community group's eyes. And the betterment of the community, from my perspective, may be a holistic approach to making sure everybody has access to equal opportunity, access to education, equal opportunity education are included in the decision-making processes in counties and city governments. Getting in front of issues that are happening in our community that surprise us, when major issues come up that we didn't plan for in our strategic plans, but also just being a voice, a consistent voice, because in these challenging times, I just say the one benefit for us in the NAACP and the Bowles Center is we have lasted for quite some time by being at the table. If we introduce an initiative in education, an inclusive initiative, we want to be at the table for the long run, not as the introduction to that opportunity, but it's going to take some time to implement and make sure that process comes to fruition. And so we try to make sure that we do that because that builds trust and that builds a long relationship with those entities that we try to partner with. But it takes a team approach and it takes an open mind and open heart. And then one other thing I just say is we have to understand the language that our community and our region uses to market itself. If our region is using our language to market itself, such as we want to be a competitive region and separate ourselves from any other region so we can attract the best businesses, have high quality healthcare, better education for everybody, then we have to move in that direction as well. And then use our language there to assist those who make that kind of policy to make it better.
Yeah, you said a couple things that I took notes on there that were really interesting. One of them was the time to implement, these changes in policies or these initiatives. It must be, with that in mind, it must be pretty heartbreaking to see some of these being now dismantled because you know how long it takes to build, and now you're going to have to recover from a dismantling and not only undo the damage, but now start over again. I mean, how does that, what are your thoughts and feelings about some of that
I think
you're
we have
seeing?
to readjust, refocus, and reapply ourselves and then come up with some bold ideas to address those issues now, because we in the civil rights community, we knew that these challenges were coming. But the goal is to how to lead our community out of those issues that we've had for quite some time. When something is dismantled that we depended on for quite some time, you got to have some leadership there to kind of gradually understand the fact that that's coming down the pipeline. And you may have to adjust what you're doing to prepare your community for a different time and a different day. If not, you can potentially be stuck in that era, or you miss out on an opportunity. So that's unfortunate that these things are being dismantled. But in this day and age, we have to prepare ourselves for what the challenges are that are coming, and it's painful. But again, with the collective will and the
Yeah.
collective talent that represents the communities, I think those communities have a unique opportunity to create a plan to force their interests ahead.
Yeah. I I I I guess that's it's somewhat cyclical, unfortunately. I guess it's probably not the first time you've kind of had some of those setbacks and had to make those readjustments and recommit yourself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we have to recommit ourselves, and particularly when you have the dismantle of diversity, equity, and inclusion in higher education, and then in the corporate and business communities. So we have to readjust ourselves to that. And also, I always give an example here is that during the civil rights movement, when our attorneys in the NAACP, Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, were trying to fight for integration, they looked at the Constitution and the laws that were on the books, and they used those laws in their favor, just like the other side would use the laws in their favor to prevent those opportunities from happening. And so sometimes you have to be creative in that, and do a deep dive into the language there, and craft your policy, craft your agenda based on the current laws or the language within the law, because you can find your way forward within the law of exclusion. And I think that we need to kind of really do a deep dive into
Mm,
that right there.
mm.
Yeah, and speaking of kind of some of these laws in Kentucky, we had this House Bill 4 that was fast tracked. Ultimately, it was vetoed by the governor, but it passed, and it dismantles, all abilities to have DEI in universities and in teaching curriculums and things like that. And again, the kind of going to what Brian was saying is it's retracting all of the work that's been done. And is there anything on a grassroots level to work with legislators to try to get things like this not in our legislation with these bills like House Bill 4, which are really detrimental to basic diversity practices?
Well, that's good. Our state conference in the NAACP and our relationship with other state stakeholders who are aligned in this effort to maintain our position with DEI, and talk about the advantages that that's had for our state and our nation. We are continuing to fight, and we haven't given up any kind of momentum in terms of the setbacks. So we still align ourselves with people of goodwill who want to help address those kind of issues there and come up with plans. We always try to engage our legislators and to make them aware that this diversity, equity, and inclusion doesn't take away from any group. It only enhances it. And it's a great way forward to maintain our talent base and increase our talent base in our region. It's a great benefit for our business community. It's a great business model. In addition to that, it's empowering to broaden that's a perspective of young people in education. But on the flip side of that is when you dismantle something, that's an opportunity for groups who have felt the dismantling to reposition and reorganize themselves. If DEI is eliminated on college campuses, then we got to bring that to the community. That means the community has to rise up and connect with institutions or other community groups of how we're going to create programs in our community to make up for those losses there. So it's a great opportunity now to reinvest, revisit, and then come out as champions. Because I always say it's right here, some of these opportunities were not necessarily, these are policy oriented goals to dismantle these initiatives, but also hidden within that is to encourage students not to attend those institutions. But I always tell the students now, this is a better time now than ever for you to refocus on your education.
Wow. Okay. So your optimism is really making me feel better. I'm really glad we're having
Exactly.
you on. I needed you. You also mentioned earlier on the community policing, which I'm very interested in, especially in light of, what has been happening or almost happened over the last couple of weeks in Chicago with the Trump administration threatening to bring in the military, that performative act that they're going to do there. And I listened to the mayor of Chicago and the chief of police and the governor, J.B. Pritzker, and, they're saying you took billions of dollars from our budget for us to enhance our policing, improve community policing, to do other things that will help us reduce the crime rate. So you've taken that money away and now you're going to bring in the military like that's going to solve a problem that actually is being created because of the lack of funding.
One perspective I have about law enforcement and then the current administration wanting to go in and potentially bring the National Guard in is that city governments have to go in and admit sometimes that they have some challenges. Okay. Now these challenges exist within within certain segments of the community that need more resources directed toward them. Okay. I'm not necessarily talking about more police. I'm talking about more
Right.
outreach efforts, more social workers, more community groups connected to resources, boots on the ground with folks that you can form relationships with to help deter some of the potential activity. Also, you want to make sure that you already have a relationship with state police, in those communities right there. You
Oh,
want
yeah.
to make sure you have that. You do everything in your power to make sure you're doing everything in your administration to meet those challenges there before somebody says that, well, based on the data shows you have an uptick in crime, therefore we got to send these individuals in. But you do everything you can to address that. Yeah, there's some major challenges in those communities. Law enforcement can't handle it by themselves. They can handle it, but they need other resources. They need financial resources. Because some of these cities, for example, Louisville, Kentucky, I think it's down 300 police officers. So that they have not gotten to the
Wow.
same level of police officers that they've had in the past. But the challenge is, and I ask my law enforcement partners this question, is when did you recognize the shift? The shift, I mean, when did you recognize the shift that happened when when some individuals no longer wanted to be law enforcement personnel? There was a shift that happened. And when did y'all recognize the shift? And they said, well, admittedly, they said, well, during the George Floyd situation. So it's about what kind of shifts that happen in our society at different times and how we're going to adjust to the shifts. But also it's the message within the shifts that we're sending. When you got a shift there, you got a challenge there that you have to meet. And sometimes we can miss an opportunity. One thing I liked about a previous police chief in Dallas, Texas, when they had a challenge there in the past few years back, he was marching in the street with people that were protesting. So law enforcement joined the march effort there. And then once he was able to speak to the entire community, he said to the community, "We're hiring." Okay. And I thought that was a great segue, a great opportunity to relationships,
Yeah.
even based on the difficulties that were happening in that community. He reached out to that community and said, "We need you all." And so in our communities with law enforcement, we have to have a reciprocal or a relationship there that we need each other, but that needing of each other has to be a genuine, lasting partnership. And you may have to do some things different. That means you might have to police different. Okay, you might have to be seen different because I think what we're doing right now is we're going toe to toe. We're matching energy with energy. So, say for example, if you have a challenging issue in the community, law enforcement is matching that certain energy rather than learning how to de-escalate that. And so we need more
Mm-hmm.
de-escalation. We
Yep.
need more community policing. We need more outreach efforts, and then too, we need more efforts in the schools to be able to talk with our students in the schools about when they leave in the summer or when they leave after school, what to engage themselves in. So we need more
Mm-hmm.
recreational. We need more employment opportunities. We need opportunities for them to grow, to direct their energy toward. And sometimes I think the education system is moving so rapidly, they don't have time for those things anymore.
Yeah, that's definitely really good points, and having that kind of open perspective and looking at what do we need in those communities, right? Like there are problems, and I think it's we have to address them, and how can we come together and kind of speaking on this unity and coming together, especially with of diverse backgrounds. We did have, and Brian and I talked about this earlier in our podcast, the shooting death of Charlie
Mhm.
Kirk. He's a divisive personality, but of course, all of us are in very much agreement that, of course, there's no place for violence at all. But I think it speaks to this larger divide. And I think that a lot of people are in these different kind of echo chambers, right? A lot of people haven't heard kind of the divisive things that he had said, and they're only hearing about things that he was maybe a religious person. So there's this divide in the message, and there's a divide in, I think, how we perceive information. And I don't know if you have any comments on that.
First of all, I want to say condolence to his family, because you already mentioned we don't want those kind of actions to happen nowhere, to any
Absolutely.
person, to at a school or anywhere in the community or anything like that. We're the United States of America, okay, and we have to refocus on that to remind ourselves we're the greatest country in the world and we're the United States of America. And therefore, that's the umbrella for everything. We're the United States. So how are we going to look at ourselves as this United States of America rather than creating silos and breaking apart? I just want to maintain the United States of America where we can continue to be or challenge ourselves to be the greatest country in the world, even though we have major challenges right now. So these issues that come up nationally and the voices that are addressing some of these issues, in their mind, they're doing the right thing. In their mind, they are saying the things in their communities that they feel that their communities need. But the challenge is, are those things the way forward? Are those things the way forward where everybody can seize an opportunity and see ourselves in the future that we all can succeed and come together? Our voices should be voices of inspiration. Our voices should be voices of inspiration. And I think when people attach themselves onto some kind of group in social media, you have to challenge yourself to say, is this a voice of inspiration? Is this the voice of a lasting generation? Is this the voice that's going to maintain our competitive edge in our world? Is this the voice that my kids are going to be subjected to in the future? Am I paving the best way forward for them? And I think it's just the response that we have. We have to be very mindful of how we even respond to those kind of challenges that we have. A good leader would stand up and say that yes, we have challenges, but we're still trying to chart a better way forward for everybody. Recognize the wrong that was done, but still create a high energy, bold vision for our community, right there, for our nation. And that's when we need healing. Okay, we greatly need healing. And before that healing to happen, we're gonna need that bold leadership right there, that bold leadership of inspiration coming together and then charting the best way forward. It could be done.
Yeah, the president of the United States used to be the healer in chief, and unfortunately, that's not the message that we've received thus far from our current president. And it would be nice to have that level of leadership, and hopefully, it comes through from someone somewhere soon. I think we all hope for that. Could you possibly share some of the current initiatives bringing back to Northern Kentucky that the Northern Kentucky NAACP is working on, like some of your top action items you have on your list right now?
Yeah, I will say this right here. I think one of our most important things are getting people out to vote. Okay, we got to get communities out
10-4.
to vote. We got to get them energized and understand that every election is the most important election. So every election is the most important election.
Yes, sir.
And so we got to get people out to vote. That's what's going to make the change. It's going to be up to the American people to make the change, no matter who's in the White House, no matter who's making the decision right now. It's
That's
going to be
right.
up to the American people. It's about where we want as a nation, as American people, what we want to look like now and in the future.
One of the questions I was going to ask you is what gives you hope, but I'm going to tell you right now, you've given me a lot of hope, because I feel like right now I think we're a country that is hurting, and you've been so optimistic and have such a vision for what could bring us together. And I just want to
I
thank you
think
for
both of you.
that.
Yes, you're welcome.
So a couple last things. One is, what's the best way for anyone who wants to get involved with any of your initiatives? A good way for people to connect?
Thank you very much for that. We are active in our community. We meet once a month, like third Tuesday at 1 to 2 libraries. It can be at the Kenton County Library one, and at the Campbell County Library one. We try to mix it up. Since we're in Northern Kentucky, we try to get a meet throughout the region. Because we just don't want to meet in Covington because some of the folks may not travel from Boone. May not travel from Campbell. So we want to be make sure we individuals we accessible to our community. Now, NAACP has been multiracial organization since its founding in 1909. And so we have always welcomed different racial and ethnic groups, all kind of people in our organization, which we represent. And we try to we represent the interests of everyone. And so, they can call us at 859-442-7476 or send us an email at nkyBranch@AOL.com, and then we respond to them with our meeting notices and things like that. And we want our region to be for everybody because we got a very prosperous region here. We got regional leaders here with bold visions, and we don't want anybody to be left behind.
Right. Right.
And you have the gala coming up,
Yes,
right?
good. We have the Freedom Fund Gala. We do it once a year, and we have that coming up on November the 7th, and that's going to be at the Madison Event Center. That's just one event we get together and we recognize business, corporations, individuals who have contributed to improving communities, improving our region. So that's a great opportunity to connect and network with individuals. Also, we try to go to many different groups' events as well. Try to be a reciprocal partner in those challenges. One thing I'll say is over the years, the NAACP, we've had some challenges with some of our community partners in the initial stage, but based on that challenge, our relationship has maintained for over 15 years. So you can go in and have a challenging conversation and you can come out with something. We try to stay at the table until we both can come out with something constructive. Because we believe we go into a meeting with something to offer that's beneficial to our region. We can help craft a conversation or craft a mission where we can work together.
And with the Kenton Dems, we're going to sponsor 2
Okay.
tables there. So we will see you at the Freedom from Gala
Okay,
for
I'm
sure.
glad to hear that.
And then we do like to do one final thing with all of our guests. If you're up for it, a little lightning round question, 5 quick questions to get to know you better. If you're up for that.
Yes. Good.
Yes. All right, let's do it. All right, let's start with, what is your favorite comfort food?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Well, I like Asian food, so that's very comforting to me. Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, when I don't feel good, I love to get some fried
Right,
rice and
yeah,
wonton soup. So I'm with you on
yeah.
that. All right. Okay. What is one song you like to listen to get you fired up for a
What
big
is
event?
the Ain't No Stopping Us Now? That's just one song. Ain't no stopping us now. We on the move.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Yeah, right there.
Now, if you had a time machine, would you go to the past or to the future?
Well, I would just say I'm a technocrat, so I will go toward the future. I always look for the future.
I want to know who your childhood hero was.
Oh, the childhood hero, man. That's a good question there. Well, I had we had a lot of teachers in our communities that
Great,
taught
yeah.
that taught us. The educators at our elementary school that my mom sent us to gave us a great foundation. They gave us a great foundation, and they challenged us. Now my mom had 10 children. Okay, she had 3 triplets. I'm not one of the triplets, but we had 3 triplets. Then most of all of us, about 8 of us, went to college and graduated. We all became
Wow, that is
we all
fantastic.
became leaders in our realms of society. But she had us, with a strong educational foundation, and then our educators that empowered us.
That sounds like
Yeah.
your mom's a hero to me as well. And your last and final lightning round question, Mr. Bowles, is, are you an early bird or a night owl?
I try to be an early bird as much as possible because you got to
Yeah.
rise up early. You have to be an early bird to move because all the decisions are mostly made that early, and you don't want to miss out on anything.
Yeah.
And one of the last things I say is dealing with this recent challenge with Charlie Kirk. We have to ask ourselves, what did we miss out on last week because this occurred? We missed out on a whole lot of movement in our nation that could have propelled us to a whole new level. Some things we should have been in tune to. We had directed our attention toward that unfortunate situation there. And but there was a whole lot of other issues there nationally that we probably missed out on and have to revisit. Because the attention was directed toward that horrific situation. And rightfully so, but we still have a lot of other issues there in our nation that we have to have awareness of it about what we potentially missed.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. You can't get
Oh,
distracted. We can mourn and we can grieve, but at the same time, we still have to keep looking forward and moving forward and being aware. That's absolutely
Yes.
correct. Well, we sure appreciate you joining us. It was a very interesting conversation. I learned a lot, and definitely looking forward to engage with the NAACP in Northern Kentucky in the
Thank
future.
you. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.